Hello. This is Alex speaking to you. I invite you to watch and listen to a new author story on my channel.
At the end of this story, the psychologist will tell you how to do the right thing in this case. Listen carefully.
Alex met Audrey when he was standing in line at the university library. They had both gone there to borrow the same economics books they needed for their classes. To pass the time, they talked to each other in a low voice. From the library they went to the student cafe and spent a wonderful evening there. We talked about everything about music, movies, student news. Then they started dating, fell in love, and 2 years after graduation, got married. The first few years of married life were great. Alex, right after graduation, started working as an engineer in the planning and technical department of a rather solid firm. The salary was decent, and the company had great prospects for him. Thanks to his knowledge, he began to confidently move up the career ladder in his organization. Audrey was not able to accomplish much with her diploma. The new Took settled into the office of a relatively small accounting firm. She had some advantages and hoped that once she gained enough experience, she would find a better position. They lived in the house Audrey's parents had given them. Alex's parents had given them a car. Everything was fine, but a while ago something started to change. Before that, they had discussed having children, but Audrey suddenly changed her mind. She became a little capricious and demanding, and Alex noticed that she started calling him at work more often, clarifying where he was, at what facility, and where he was going. Alex didn't pay much attention to it at the beginning, but then he wondered why she needed such information all the time. Besides, she started to be late, sometimes she came a little drunk. She explained this by the urgency of the work of a firm, where they were contracted to conduct an audit. And the odor of alcohol coming from her, that someone had a birthday party and they were treated. It was uncomfortable to refuse. Alex connected it all to the arrival of Audrey's friend Olivia. Olivia was married to Peter, a great guy with whom Alex had formed a friendship. After thinking about everything that was going on, Alex called Peter and suggested that he meet him on his lunch break at the cafe near his office. Petra had flexible hours and could show up anywhere in the city during the day. At the cafe, Alex shared with Peter the oddities in his family life. He, in turn, said that the same thing was happening in his family. They discussed the problem. Peter said, "I have the opportunity to control everything, you stay out of it. Just act normal. 'Cause the way I see it, you're gonna screw it up. It takes stamina to deliver a devastating blow. Although, if Audrey's cheating, I can get out of control. Well, you wait for my call." Audrey usually got home after work around family or 8 in the evening, and she was always in a great mood. Sometimes she'd come home later. And on this day, she suddenly announced that they were doing an audit in the neighborhood, and were going away for 2 days to do it there. She ignored Alex's question. "Audrey, what audit on Friday night? What audit on Saturday and Sunday?" He also noticed that Audrey had put on more revealing clothing, clearly not meant for office work. She turned around and left for work. Alex immediately called Peter back. He confirmed that his wife was also going on a business trip. He said they'd be looked after and told where they were going. "We can get there." Alex was at the site that day, dealing with the identified deficiencies, and made decisions instead of the director of the company to postpone their elimination. The meeting ended at the beginning of the 7th evening. He went outside to the car, and at that time he received a call from Peter. He said, "Anyway, our wives are in a pub in the new micro-district near the hotel. Director Wilson's with them, his deputy, some 2 department heads. I'll be there in about 5 minutes." "Great, I'll be there at the same time, I'm close by." He drove to the restaurant that Petra had given him, put the car in the parking lot and walked into the lobby. Petra was already there and said, "They're in a private office across from the bandstand." Alex moved forward, followed by Petra, trying to tell him something, but Alex couldn't hear him anymore. He entered the office and saw the company. The director was hugging his wife, holding a glass of champagne and saying something. He turned his head and seeing the entrant, whom he did not recognize, said, "Young man, you have the wrong stall, here we are with the girls." Audrey jumped up with the words, "Alex, what are you doing here?" Olivia jumped up, who saw Peter and wailed, "Peter, it's not what you think." Wilson, who hadn't realized it was the husbands, rising from his seat, announced, "Get out of here, you puppies. Don't interfere with those not with the girls to rest." He didn't have time to say anything else. Alex's well-placed punch threw him back. Everyone jumped up and Alex started hitting everyone. The staff who tried to protect the director received a series of strong, whipping blows and scattered to the corners. The principal, not thinking straight, tried to get up, and by doing so he only attracted the attention of the enraged Alex. As a result, a hail of blows fell on him. The table with appetizers and alcohol was overturned. Dishes flew to the floor, and Audrey and Olivia screamed like crazy. Peter rushed to pull Alex away from the bloodied principal, but it wasn't easy to handle. Locked arms, Alex replaced his legs and stomped furiously on Wilson, who was no longer responding. Restaurant employees piled on Alex. Finally, a police squad that showed up intervened. According to some of the restaurant workers who were present, they had never seen such a beating before. With the help of police officers and voluntary helpers, Alex was loaded into a car and sent to the police station. Peter was also taken there, but in another car. He had time to see Wilson being loaded into an ambulance, unconscious, and another employee being carried in. The police officers took action and identified all those involved in the conflict. Another car pulled up and everyone was brought to the department. The inquirers of the department came to the restaurant and began to examine the scene. They also assessed the damage caused. It was found out that this company used to visit this restaurant quite often. Today they came as guests of the hotel, as they had rented two two-room rooms for 3 days, from Friday to Sunday. And in one of these rooms, the inquirer found a stock of food with alcohol. And it was clearly not going to be eaten in one evening. All this time Alex and Petra were in separate cells, but they were able to talk to each other. Petra was telling Alex off. "But I told you to control yourself." "I did. Until he told me not to stop him and the girls from having a good time." "Okay, but I got one shot in there, and I had to stop. And then I got a little carried away. I look, and he's still moving, and he's yapping something. He wasn't mumbling anymore, he was out. I don't know where he was." "Why are you kicking him?" "You blocked my hands, and he was so tempting, it was a shame not to take advantage." "You beat him back. He's got a wife. Did he think my wife had a husband? And I'll tell you what, I'm sorry. I accidentally hit Olivia when I was straightening these guys up. Not just Olivia, but Audrey. I didn't accidentally hit Audrey." Everyone else involved in the fight was sitting in the hallway of the police station. Olivia and Audrey were keeping to themselves and discussing amongst themselves what to do now. Audrey said, "I didn't think Alex would be so angry. All the restaurants couldn't keep him away. So what do we do now? I think Peter will forgive me, it's not like we had anything. Is it okay that our stuff is in the hotel room? He doesn't know anything about it. So much for the overtime. It almost made our careers. I couldn't bear it if Alex left me, it's just so stupid. And a black eye. That was a nice touch. Me too. You were supposed to get hit by Peter. He didn't get to me in time. Your husband would have trampled the principal. Didn't you see that?" "See what?" "Wilson was carried away unconscious. And so was the head of internal audit. That's crazy. Where was I? You were lying on the sidelines, they were bringing you to consciousness, and when they took them away, you woke up. What am I supposed to tell Peter?" The policeman, who had partially drawn a picture of the incident, began interviewing the victims. At the same time, having called the hospital, he put aside his explanations and took the form of the resolution on initiation of criminal proceedings. Told the duty officer, "In general, judging by the condition of one of the victims, it threatens to have consequences. I feel sorry for the guys. They could get 8 years in prison. If he doesn't come to his senses, 15. What about these guys? I haven't talked to them yet. I talked to the restaurant staff. I called them in tomorrow. But it's their fault, too. They took their girls off work, got hotel rooms and went to work overtime on the weekend. The husbands found out, so they went to the restaurant. If he'd caught them in the room, I think he'd have killed them. Or threw them out the window, and it's a 6th-floor walk up. What are you gonna do?" "I'm gonna interrogate them." First the cop questioned the victims and let them go home, then he started questioning Peter. And then it was Alex's turn. The policeman, who had spent the whole night in interrogations, urgent investigative actions, called Alex in for questioning. Alex didn't shut up. He told me, "I found out by accident that my wife had misled me by telling me she was traveling for 3 days, for an urgent checkup. I arrived at the restaurant and found their company in a separate office. At that moment, her director was hugging her and I could see that she was enjoying it. When he saw me, he told me to leave and not to interfere with his fun with his girls. I couldn't help myself and hit him. I don't know where Pither, the husband of my wife's friend, came from. He wasn't in the fight. I was the one who hit them all, so I'm responsible. Alex, being in the aquarium, managed to negotiate with Peter, and as a result he went as a witness. As a result of the last interrogation, it was decided, since there was enough data indicating the existence of an administrative offense, a case of administrative offense was initiated against Peter. A protocol was drawn up. But with regard to Alex, a criminal case was initiated, so far only for intentional infliction of serious harm to health dangerous to human life. But the policeman warned that if Wilson, God forbid, dies, the qualification will be different. After that, Alex and Peter were sent to a temporary detention center. But they didn't stay there long. At 10 o'clock they were taken to court. The judge considered Peter's case and made a decision to impose an administrative punishment, namely 10 days of arrest. At the same time, the judge said, "This good-for-you trashing of the restaurant has already become an urban legend. I tried to stop him. And hit the victim a couple times. So he got into a fight, I defended myself. The file says you and your friend broke into a private office, beat up the people there. Is it okay that my wife was there? But you didn't have to start the mayhem." "I didn't start it." "That's right, you didn't participate, and that's just administrative detention." "I did. I tried to stop it." "Right, but your friend Alex is fully responsible for the fight. But I'm not making any judgment on his actions right now. It's an ongoing investigation. When it's over, then we'll decide how to evaluate what he did." Alex has been remanded into custody. Audrey and Olivia, who had spent half the night in the police station, were released. In releasing them, the policeman assumed that he would not release the husbands immediately and warned them. Decide how to explain everything to the husbands. Although it looks like Alex won't be your company anytime soon. What do you mean, not soon? You won't let him go? So that in half an hour you can suffer at his hands? I don't know what you'll tell him or how he'll take it. I don't know what to tell him. He's gonna ask. And you need to be prepared for that, and you're Peter. He didn't seem to do much at the restaurant. But when you two are home together, he might throw you out the window. He needs to cool off. And all I can do to cool him down is send him away for 24 hours. What about Alexa? What about Alex? Can he go 24 hours? I'm sorry. He'll be detained as part of a criminal case. What criminal case? What's the matter, guys fighting? Yeah, it happens. Only your director hasn't regained consciousness yet. The doctors don't give a comforting prognosis. So what then? Then for Alex, trial, jail. And for me? Can you marry the director? He's married. I think not for long. After your husband kicked him, his attractiveness as a man dropped by 80%. All women, you're free to go. I have husbands to interview. Audrey and Olivia went outside. The sun was coming up. They stopped and Audrey asked, "What are we gonna do?" "We thought we'd go out for one night, but the director brought this bunch." "That's right, they paid for the table and the hotel room. What a vacation we had. Are you going to tell Peter?" "I just want him to cool down while he's serving 24 hours. Otherwise he'll kill me." "Are you getting a divorce?" "What are you talking about?" "I never had such plans. I love him. It's a strange kind of love, we love them, but we agreed to such an adventure." "So why did they take us to pubs for a month?" "Exactly to prepare this business trip, so we went." "Where to now?" "I'm going to a hotel." "Are you crazy? Our stuff is still there? You didn't forget?" "Then I'm going home to get ready for the reunion." Wilson awoke Monday evening. The nurse on duty, who received the signal, entered the room and seeing that he had opened his eyes, said, "That's good. You're alive and that's the main thing." "Where am I?" "You're in intensive care. You've had several operations. The doctor on duty will be right with you." Soon the doctor came, looked at the readings, noted that the readings were satisfactory. He had a brief conversation with Wilson. Made an appointment. Wilson asked, "How long have I been here?" "You were brought in on Friday. Today is Monday. And these men who attacked me, what about them?" "They are, as you put it, being handled by the police. As far as I know, they've been apprehended." "How do I call my wife?" "That won't be necessary. She's been notified you're here and she came by." "How long will I be here?" "About 20 days, I think." "Is it just me or is there someone else?" Sam was admitted. He was transferred to the ward this morning, but he escaped. Of course, he's got us a young girl, and he didn't want her to hear the story. That's where he went wrong. His wife was notified that he was in the hospital on Saturday. He got home, and his wife met him with something heavy in her hands. Now he's back in the ICU in the next room. And the women that were with us, what about them? That's what I don't know. I'll fire those fools as soon as I get back to work. Fire them. In the meantime, get some rest. On Tuesday, Alex was called in for questioning. The interrogation was conducted by an investigator. I'll be questioning you after you talk to a lawyer. An attorney? I didn't actually hire anyone. You talk to him, then decide and tell me. He's reviewing the case file right now. About 40 minutes later, a man entered the office and told the investigator that he wanted to talk to the defendant one-on-one. They were found a free interrogation room with bars on the windows. They sat down at a table and the man introduced himself. I, James, am your attorney. But I didn't ask anyone to do this. If you're from my wife, I won't accept help from her. No, Wilson's wife hired me. What's this about? She's preparing divorce papers. Now, while he's in the hospital, she removed him as manager and fired everyone at the restaurant. Audrey and Olivia, too? Them, too. But that's not our job. I've reviewed the case, and I believe you were initially charged with the wrong offense. I'm looking at aggravated assault and battery. That's a different statute. What's the difference? The difference is the sentence you'll serve. And under this article, the options are correctional labor for up to 2 years, restriction of freedom for up to 2 years, forced labor for up to 2 years, or imprisonment for the same period. I didn't even think about that. I thought about it. The investigator was invited and the interrogation began, which lasted more than an hour. In the end, the investigator realized what the lawyer was getting at, but he didn't let it show. He himself, evaluating the collected case materials, was inclined to the fact that Alex acted on emotions. At the end of the interrogation, the investigator said that his wife asked to see him. She wants to give him a message. Didn't she get enough from me? I won't accept any parcels from her, and I don't want to see her. The lawyer intervened. Alex, according to the case file, they haven't had anything there yet. They just went out to restaurants and cafes every night. James, do you really think my marriage can be saved? My wife betrayed me, betrayed our marriage, betrayed my love. The only question is, why did she do it? Without even asking her, I'll answer that. She wanted to make her career in this way, because the knowledge she received at the university was clearly not enough. It's over between us. From the temporary detention center, Alex was transferred to a detention center. In the cell where he was placed there were 10 people, there were iron beds. He was given a mattress, some bedding like a pillowcase, sheets and towels. The officer in charge of the cell who brought him in identified a place for him. Alex entered the cell without any problems, then the question started. Remembering the lawyer's instruction not to spread about his case and not to open his soul to anyone. And knowing some of the rules of prison life, he answered. Why are you inquiring? And why are you asking me such detailed questions? I'd like to know who you are. Ask the cops. You watch the conversation. I can see I've offended you. When he heard that he was offended, his friend lunged for a fight, but he didn't notice that Alex was ready for a confrontation and met him with a punch to the jaw. 2 others stepped in for their buddy and a fight broke out. The cell door opened, the fighters were separated, taken out of the cell and locked in small boxes. Police officers appeared and took them one by one into their offices and took explanations from them. Everything ended in the evening when Alex was transferred to a special cell for 10 days. Alex himself no longer thought about free life and was set for the worst. It was certain that he would have to spend several years behind bars. He did not expect any miracles. A few days later his lawyer came to him, who was quite surprised that his client was in a special cell. Alex explained, James, I had no other choice. The issue had to be resolved drastically. So, did you put the whole cell under the hammer? No, there were 3 special ones. Pretending to be old-school inmates. How do you get them in your cell? They're supposed to be first-time inmates. How do I know? Do I put them in their cells? All right. Why don't you sit in the holding cell for a while? I'm gonna talk to someone. I had to sit for a long time, almost an hour. The lawyer came back, and they talked about the nuances of the criminal case. The lawyer said that he had received a character reference on Alex from his place of work. The character reference was completely positive. At the end of the conversation, he warned, you will now be taken to a cell, there are previously convicted multiple offenders. They will look after you there. The warden has cancelled your punishment and is dealing with it now. Tomorrow you'll get a package. Give it to the head of the cell. He'll distribute the information to the prisoners. And how did you decide that? Very simple. I proved that the fight was started by people who have been there for a long time. Alex was led back to the building, and indeed put in another cell, where 3 people were kept. He silently entered the cell, taking a vacant seat. Looking at those who sat there, he realized from their tattoos that they had been through fire and water. Meanwhile, the cellmates set the table and invited him. He began to refuse, saying he was ashamed, to which one said, "Did they start to feed well in the punishment cell? Come on, sit down and eat. We know how you got here and how you beat up Wilson at the restaurant. He's a very bad man," so his wife left him. While he's in the hospital, she took everything from him, including his business. You know him? Yeah, we do. He put a good man in jail with his audit. It's known that the whole thing was rigged to take the business, and all the trouble in the accounting department was created artificially. But they couldn't prove anything. They gave him a short sentence. But they set up an assassination attempt. He had to go free. He killed a mercenary in defense, and they gave him 15 years. But due to the fact that it was his first conviction, he was sent to the general regime. And his business, who got his business? Sam took over his business. He's the head of internal audit at Wilson's. Or used to. He's in the hospital now. It's a weird firm. It's not weird at all. There's a lot of money going around in there that you wouldn't believe. Why don't you tell me what you've decided with your wife? Nothing. Divorce. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. What I don't understand is, why did Wilson's wife sign on for me? She hired a lawyer. You expecting a catch? Yeah, you're kind of like that. You're the one who can't trust anyone. But Claudie's doing this to thank you. She knew her husband was out on the town, and she knew he didn't trust her. His plan was to leave her with nothing at all, but she outplayed him. What's gonna happen to him? He doesn't know anything yet. He's in the hospital not knowing what's going on. Wilson's been moved from the ICU to his room. His wife visited him during the first few days. One day she brought a notary, in the presence of whom Wilson signed a number of papers. He was not thinking clearly at the time, but Claudia assured him that it was necessary for the management of the auditing company. Informed him that she, in order to correct the situation in which the firm had fallen, was forced to fire everyone who had been with him in the restaurant. Including Audrey and Olivia. Today word had reached him that Sam's wife had also brought a notary to her husband, and he too had signed some papers. When the doctor appeared, Wilson asked, "Would you mind moving me to the same room with Sam? I thought about it. He's in such a depressed state, you can't do that. And I've also asked my wife to move me to the VIP room. She didn't approach you about that?" "No, I spoke to Claudie. She didn't say anything about moving you to the VIP room." The doctor kept his word. That evening, Wilson and Sam met in a room with 6 people in it. Only Wilson and Sam were bedridden. They were not allowed to get up yet. When Wilson met with his head of the internal audit department, he asked, "Why did your wife come to see you with a notary? The firm, which is registered to me, was reissued to herself. And then what happened? When everything was signed, she told me she was filing for divorce." "That's pretty cool. Well, she's got me on a misdemeanor assault charge. I'm the one who's here because I came home. What saved you? She had your wife. I take it she stopped her from killing me. Is it true she hit you over the head with a frying pan? More than once. That was a hell of a party. We lost everything." "What do you mean?" "That's what I mean. Our wives took our business and everything we had. And I'm not sure they left us anything. Maybe they're the ones who planted the info on this Alexei guy about us being holed up in the hotel." "What's the investigator telling you?" "Which one? The restaurant case or the one with my wife?" "The restaurant case." "He doesn't say anything. Alex is in custody, I've been declared a victim. What do you want to tell me is, what do we do now? They took over AJ's firm. That's how we got screwed. I had nothing to do with it, Wilson. I was following your orders. And that firm is now my wife's sour patch. Let her deal with it. I'll tell you what, if our major accounting firm gets shaken up, we'll be in trouble. The question is, what are our wives up to?" Audrey went to work after that night. Claudie came into her and Olivia's office. She put a piece of paper in front of each of them and said, "Do you know how to write a statement?" "Claudie, it's not our fault. Wilson said if we didn't go to the restaurant, he'd fire us. I didn't know my husband would be there, and her husband with him. They're in jail now. Her husband Peter was arrested for 24 hours and my Alex was prosecuted. I'm doing you chickens a favor. I have to save our firm's reputation now. Everyone who was at the restaurant will be fired. And you guys are getting so much publicity in the neighborhood, it's making my ears pop. It's our first time here. What are you talking about? All you guys have been doing for the last month is hitting up bars and cafes every night after work. It's a shame your Alex caught you. You told them you'd be at the hotel, in the pub. I don't know how they found out. Too bad. I was actually planning on catching you in your room and paying you off there. Only your husbands ruined it, but they made a fuss all over the region. Where are we going now? That's not my question. You don't work here anymore. Audrey and Olivia quit. Olivia suggested, Audrey, why don't we celebrate? Why don't we do it at your place or mine? Let's go to your place. We'll stop at the mall on the way, get something stronger, some snacks. I'll even stay at your place. Peter's not here anyway. Look, he's gonna run out of 24 hours. What are you gonna do? You already asked me, I still don't know. I don't want a divorce, but I don't know what Peter wants. At least you'll see Peter soon, but I don't know when I'll see Alex. Whose fault is it that he's so hot? I knew and saw he'd be furious with me for being late after work. I knew it was gonna be a scandal and I didn't want it to be. Okay, let's go. Finally, the day came when Alex received the indictment. Having familiarized himself with it, he noted that he was charged under the article, causing serious harm to health in a state of affect. The sanction of the article provides for the following penalties: corrective labor for up to 2 years, restriction of liberty for up to 2 years, forced labor for up to 2 years, or imprisonment for the same term. Alex did not hope that he would be left free. A lawyer visited him and said, "The case is in court. No date has been set yet. All the victims have family problems. Job problems, too. They can't get jobs, but Audrey and Olivia got jobs. Wilson and Sam have been released from the hospital. Where they live, I don't know. But they'll be in court." How's Peter doing? Peter did 10 days, came home, kicked his wife out and filed for divorce. She's living with your Audrey now. A short time later, Alex was taken to court. He looked neat, clean suit, clean shirt with no tie, clean shaven. The convoy led him into the courtroom, where no one else was there, but his lawyer was allowed in. The lawyer positioned him next to the cage in which Alex was sitting, briefed him once again, reminding him not to argue with the court, but to leave it to him. 5 minutes before the start of the session, the convoy launched victims, witnesses into the courtroom. Audrey walked up to the cage and said, "Alex, I'm sorry. And let me talk to you. I can't do this without you." Alex did not respond to her as his attention turned to Peter, who brought a bag of groceries and asked the escort for permission to feed the defendant. Alex greeted his friend. "Peter, hi. How are you doing?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm working. How are you doing?" "Life's on a schedule. Up at 6 o'clock, up at 10 o'clock. Check in twice a day. That's to make sure no one gets lost. And a walk. Walk where? It's kind of like a cell, concrete wall, but instead of a roof, it's called a walkway." The trial was over. After that, the witnesses were asked to leave the hall and wait for an invitation in the corridor. Thus began the trial itself. The hearing of the case lasted 3 days. The court questioned witnesses, victims, and finally it was Alex's turn. The parties in the debate were heard, in which the victims practically did not participate. At the end, Alex said the last word and the court went to a break. After the break, the verdict was announced. Alex was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. The reason for this was that the court saw a clear disrespect for society. This sentence was not a shock to Alex and he took it quite calmly, especially since his stay in the cell was counted as part of the sentence. The lawyer, as soon as the session was over, suggested, "Alex, I think the sentence is harsh. I can prepare an appeal." "I think not, most likely such a term because of the number of victims, but I will say this, they did not need to get under the fist. Then I remember there in that fight that I hit a policeman, and he is not among the victims. So it's all fair. It's all debatable. You know how to find me. Remember, once the sentence is passed, you'll be sent to general population." Petra, who had brought the package again, came over and told Alexei, "This is for you to take on the road, just in case." Alex did not talk to Audrey. He took one last look around the room and held out his hands. He was handcuffed and led away. The time allowed for appealing the court sentence passed, and one day Alex was called with his belongings to leave. After a while, the door opened and he was taken down the corridor to a special vehicle. Eventually he arrived at the colony. The colony was in the same area in which he lived. Upon arrival at the colony, Alex, together with the convicts who had arrived there, was sent for a 2-week quarantine. The SPETS officer asked him which of his relatives should be notified of his arrival at the penal colony. Alex thought about it and named Peter. Even before the assignment to detachments, they clarified what Alex was doing on the outside. His specialty as a civil engineer interested his superiors. The chief of the colony, Weifer, called him himself. Alex entered, as he had been taught, introduced himself, who he was, under what article he had been sentenced and for how long. He was offered a seat. During the conversation, the owner was interested in the construction of buildings. They talked for a long time. Weifer explained to Alexei that they would be allocated money for the construction of a residential building. Eventually Alex explained, to build, first of all, you need a project, but in order to design, you have to get state authorization documentation. It's a protracted process. You don't worry about that. I can do any documentation in this neighborhood in 3 days. To start work on the project, you need to develop a feasibility study. What's that for? It is necessary to take into account the location of the future house, which depends on the proximity of infrastructure and the availability of communications. And both have a significant impact on the final cost of construction. And that's all? It is necessary to conduct a topographic survey, geological surveys. What's geology got to do with it? Are we looking for minerals? It has nothing to do with that. It's just determining the basic characteristics of the terrain. The structure of the ground, the depth of the groundwater table. Based on the results of the study, building materials and construction techniques are chosen. Maybe the house will stand on pillows, or maybe we'll have to break our own. So when can the walls be erected? After all that I have listed, architects and designers who will create a building project taking into account construction norms, sanitary norms, climatic peculiarities will enter the business. And the walls are still a long way off. First, the zero stage, simply put, underground works, which include digging a pit, erecting the base and foundation, construction of the basement and load-bearing structures of the underground part of the building. And only then begins the erection of the outer walls of the building and interfloor slabs. You've written it all out. Anyway, once you finish construction, you'll be free to go. But to do that, I have to talk to a lot of people. And all the decisions that need to be made outside the colony. So you'll ride with my engineer. He's a bit dumb, though, and he's not a builder, but he can hang around. If something doesn't work out, come straight to me. But the money has been allocated to us for construction, we have to use it. Citizen Chief, pardon me for asking, but how is the money allocated for construction? What is the problem? In the absence of design and estimate documentation and when it is not known when the construction will take place, how is the money allocated from the budget? I'm afraid it's some kind of scam. As far as I understand, you were allocated budget funds, but we don't just give them away. All right, I'll look into it. Alex and the men who came with him were assigned to different squads. He was assigned to the squad dealing with construction work. The head of the squad talked to him and then took him to the site. The management decided to erect a new bathhouse by economic means. Apparently, Weifer had told Ben about Alex and he offered him to see the erected part of the ugly structure, which was called a bathhouse. Tell me, what do you think of our construction? Citizen Warden. Are you serious? Men in the countryside build palaces more neatly and beautifully. Beauty has nothing to do with it. When we finish, we'll level the crooked walls with mortar. Or what are you suggesting? I say we stop construction. What's been built, carefully tear it down to the ground. Replace the foundation and start new construction. Why? Your facility is already cracking. It's likely to fall apart, maybe even under construction. So it will fall apart? Citizen Warden. You asked for my opinion, I gave it to you. Construction was halted. A couple of days later, a civilian specialist was brought to the site. He inspected the site and confirmed everything Alex had said. He was summoned again to the head of the colony, where he was told that he was now not publicly acting as deputy head of construction. His main job was to build an apartment building for the colony staff and a new bathhouse. Alex didn't get close to anyone and kept to himself. He had a good place in the barracks. During the day he was constantly busy with work that distracted him. One evening after dinner he came to the barracks and was invited to a neighboring barracks to talk. There was no known reason for moving from barrack to barrack in the evening, but Alex went. There he was taken to a separate room where a table was set. At the table sat a man in years. Having assessed Alex, he showed him a place at the table. The one who brought Alex immediately disappeared. "Hello, Alex. Have a seat, help yourself. I can pour you a drink. What would you like? Cognac, whiskey, wine?" "Thank you. I haven't had a drink in a long time, I won't have the best now." "You know, it's the right thing to do. Anyway, I got an assignment from Wilson, the one you didn't kill, to get you killed." "What's he so pissed off about?" "I guess I didn't give him enough at the restaurant." "Probably not enough, but no one here will sign off on it. Your sentence is short, so expect a surprise on the outside. My boss said I won't be free until I finish the house." "Don't worry. He's not a bad man, and you enlightening him about the construction and the budget gave him a huge boost in management. Somebody's gonna lose their job. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Beale. I'm sure you've heard of me. I was conned out of my job by that son of a bitch Wilson. I had no choice. Now my lawyer's fighting for my release. You fit in just fine so far. It's all men in your barracks. And that's okay. If there's a problem, don't get into trouble yourself. You tell me, I'll take care of it. Tell me, what's Wilson's story?" "Right now, basically nothing. Although he has managed to get some funds past his wife that she doesn't know about. At one time, when I was set up, he withdrew some money into a joint account. And he also knows something about those who are in the shadows and threatening to talk. And he doesn't think he could get himself taken down for making such threats. He somehow reinsured himself. He said that in case of his death, the dirt would go to the prosecutor's office. I believe that the dirt is already there. But he doesn't want to expose his man." "Why did he want you out?" "Because I stole the money and he can't get his hands on it, and that kept me safe here. But more importantly, I know who his man is in the DA's office. And that's what they're both afraid of. So why not turn them in? I have 2 granddaughters, and they're under Wilson's watchful eye. No, they don't know anything, but if I move, they'll be killed. And I don't know how to get them out of harm's way." "Who are your granddaughters?" "That's something I'm not telling anyone yet. I got a letter from Peter. He didn't write much. Wilson bought a small house with all amenities and decided to organize furniture production. He rented a small shop for that purpose. He put a sawmill there and saws wood. His wife, Cloudy, sold the business, the cottage, all her assets and left. Sam's wife left with her. The criminal case against her was somehow magically dropped. According to rumors, they bought houses somewhere abroad and left for permanent residence. Meanwhile, work on the construction of a multi-story building was moving at an unprecedented pace. The site was selected, all the studies were conducted and the design began. The head of the colony personally went to the regional center to the design organization. The result did not keep him waiting. In a month, he said, the consent for the production of works of the 0th stage was received. The territory was surrounded with barbed wire, towers were set up and Alex's squad began to go there to work. The work under close supervision went quickly. Soon an excavation appeared, communications were brought in, and a basement appeared. Alex turned to the chief, who received him in his office. "Citizen boss, we now need masons, and not just any masons, but specialists. I've already put out a call to the management. We expect specialists in the nearest stages. How fast will you build the house?" "I'm in no hurry. We don't have a project yet. You can't build without a project. We've already broken a lot of rules and building regulations." "I get it." The boss kept his word. 3 days later, the first mason specialists arrived and, most importantly, all the documentation appeared. Alex breathed a sigh of relief. The house began to grow in front of his eyes. The workers of the colony began to look for apartments. And now the house was built. 2 weeks before the new year, the facility was handed over. Alex's arrest was coming to an end. In the evening he met with Ajay. They talked for a long time, and the next day Alex was given the documents and released. Alex paid attention to see if anyone was following him. He spotted those who were following him. And he easily fooled them. He evaded them by turning a corner. There was a car waiting for him, driven by Peter, who asked, "Say, what did you get yourself into again? It's a long story, but we have to kidnap 2 charming girls living in this city. And hide them in my house? Your house will be checked as soon as they're reported missing. We got a cottage outside of town. A woman keeps an eye on it, and nobody knows about it. We've only got a week to hold out." They quickly found the right street and house. They went through the emergency exit, opened the apartment silently. They went into the bedroom, and trying not to make any noise, covering their mouths, woke up the two girls sleeping in separate beds. When they were ready to scream, Alex said, "Bill," saying hi. After making sure they understood what was said, they let them go. And Alex continued, "Let's pack up quickly, get our stuff, documents and get out of here. It's gonna be hot in here soon. What about work?" "Not today." They left the same way they came. There was no sign of Alex and Peter in the apartment. Soon they pulled up to a cottage on the outskirts of town. They carried the girls' things into the house and told them, "Girls, no going out on the town, no phone calls, no internet. It's all about keeping Bill safe. If everything works out, he'll be here soon enough. Would you like to introduce yourselves? I'm Jessica, for instance, and this is my sister Vanessa. You guys don't want to know us, and we don't even know each other. And you need to stay away from us. Here's the money Bill gave you, so just sit tight and stay out of it. Then he'll be here soon enough. He'll get you groceries." Alex and Peter left without identifying themselves. Alex got off at the station, went to the duty officer and said, "I'm lagging behind the train, so I took an electric train. My suitcase was left in the compartment." The suitcase was found, and Alex went to Peter's house. Peter pretended that he had just met his friend, called at work, took the day off. Set the table. Alex took a shower, then took his cell phone and called Bill. He answered right away. "Yeah, it's okay. I'm home. Thank you." That was the end of the conversation. Andrei Stepanovich in turn dialed a number, and when he was answered, said, "We can start." He ended the conversation and quietly prayed. Wilson was awakened by the ringing of the phone at about 9 o'clock in the morning. Yesterday had been a meeting with the right people he had tried unsuccessfully to connect with. The meeting had ended late. By lunchtime he had to go to the woodworking mill. To put it simply, to the sawmill. He was going to produce building materials out of wood. He'd hired a manager, and he was studying the market. And he got a call. Without looking, he pressed the button to accept the call. It was the man he'd hired to put the spotlight on Alex. Wilson intuitively felt the danger coming from him, especially since he was serving time in the same colony as E.J. Said, "I'm listening." "Wilson, we lost him." "Lost him how?" "I told you every minute he was coming out of juvie. We were leading him. He got on the train like we figured, we even shared a car with him. But he went outside at the station and got off the train. He even left his suitcase in the compartment. So look for him. But there's only 2 of us. What do you want me to do, hire an army of detectives?" The conversation ended. Wilson sat on the bed. He thought about it, and then the phone rang again. It was Laura from a neighboring town. He answered it. "Listening to you. Wilson, Vanessa and Jessica didn't show up for work. I call them, they don't answer. I'm on my way to their house now. Call me back when you get there. Do you have keys to the apartment?" "Yes, I do." "Call them. If they don't answer, come in." 5 minutes later, Laura called back and said that she went to the apartment and it was empty. "They're gone. What do I do?" "Go to work." Audrey waited tensely for today. She knew that Alex should be back in town today. She thought he'd cooled down and would finally agree to talk to her. Olivia was also worried about the friend she was staying with. She hoped that if she got even with her husband, she'd get even with Peter. They were lucky, they were able to get settled and were doing the work they were used to, and strangely enough, they were doing quite well. But they had noticed that the men, after the fight in the restaurant, had somehow shunned them. However, they had run into some mail company themselves. Today was Friday, and they had excused themselves from work on flimsy excuses. Toward lunchtime, Peter's neighbor called and said, "Olivia, I saw a man come into your yard with a suitcase." Peter met him on the porch, and they hugged and went into the house. He took a cab. About an hour later, the doorbell rang. She opened it, and on the threshold stood a man in civilian clothes, who identified himself as a policeman and said, "We received information that your husband had returned from prison. We wanted to know if you're all right?" "I don't know, as far as I know, he's staying with Peter, a friend of his." "Who owns your house?" "This house belongs to me, but I didn't kick him out. If you see him, tell him to come over." The policeman verified Peter's address and left. A minute later, Wilson's cell phone rang. "Yeah. We found him, he's staying at a friend's house. We'll be at the address in 5 minutes. Don't do anything yet." "We lost the girls." "What girls?" "That's none of your business. Looks like Alex is involved in this, too. I'll get you more men. We need to take him alive. We'll do it ourselves." "We'll do it ourselves." When he got mad, 12 men couldn't stop him. So you're gonna have to stay out of it for now. Wait for instructions. Wilson began to think how to do everything carefully. He realized who was behind all this, and he had no protection from him now. He didn't want to call his acquaintances at the prosecutor's office either. After thinking it over, he invited one of the leaders of the militant group he had brought under him to his place. Minty showed up quickly, and Wilson said, "Tell you what, I need to get 2 people out of this address, and bring them outside the city, to the ruins of the old factory." "No problem. And what's there?" "I want them to tell me where they stashed the girls, Vanessa and Jessica. Do what you want with them. Here's the money, and it's just a down payment. And the rest, when? The rest, twice as much, will be when you bury them and give me the address where the girls are." Alex and Peter sat in the kitchen. There was whiskey on the table, an appetizer, but they didn't drink. It was getting dark outside. There was a phone call. Alex looked up. It was Bill, answered it with a greeting. "Take your buddy, and go away. To you the local gang is eating and 2 mercenaries. Hide in the cottage with the girls. Why don't you give them a fight? And get some jail time?" I said get out before it's too late. But it was too late. Minty was coming into the yard. The 2 men Alex had seen on the train were with him. There was a car not far away, and there were more people. Alex and Peter dressed quickly, by which time the bandits began to knock on the door. Petra, in the rights of the master, answered. "Just a minute, I'm coming." He nudged Alex in the other direction and they went out the door leading to the other side of the house. There they walked quickly towards the fence. As they walked, Pater asked, "What are we going to do?" Soon there was a stomping sound behind Alex and Peter, and it was a tall, crumpled man approaching. He ran surprisingly fast, and immediately got under Alex's fist. The fox and his comrade came to a stop. The fox pulled out a knife and lunged at Alex. The knife hit him in the shoulder. But by some incredibly synchronized blow of Peter and Alex in the jaw, the flyer was sent into a deep knockout. His partner rushed away. Those who came from the crumpled team did not pursue them. Alex clamped the wound, and after 200 meters they came out on the track. They were lucky to break a car, the owner of which did not pay attention that one of its passengers was wounded. For a small sum of money he dropped them off where they had asked. After changing cars and taking a bus, they reached a cottage. There they were assigned a separate room. Alexei's wound was washed and bandaged. Petra asked, "Alex, how did you do that?" "He was aiming for the neck, I saw the knife too late." Alex called Ajay. "I'm listening, I think we're okay. We got away. How badly did he cut you?" "All live. Jessica's gonna help me bandage it up, she already did." "How do you know all this?" "My guy, he called it in, he covered for you, told his guys he didn't sign up for the killings. That's why no one went after you." "What about the guy with the knife?" "His nickname's Lechok. He's a wet works, I don't even know how Vladimir got him. Works with a partner. They left him there, looks like his jaw's broken." "Alright, no more activity. Live quietly." Lechok couldn't talk himself, so he gave the phone to his partner, who called Vladimir Ivanovich and reported the outcome. "Lechok is badly injured, we need a doctor." Minty's men took their chief, got into cars, and drove away, leaving us alone. "What to do? You guys are assholes. Why did I ever contact you? Take him to the hospital, tell him he fell. And don't let me see you." After hanging up the phone, Wilson called the Minty one back. He didn't answer right away. I'm listening. I asked you for a little something, and I gave you good money. You didn't tell me it was gonna be a scumbag. My boy saw him in a fight, he almost killed them all. If security hadn't stepped in, it would have been over. It was over nothing. You gonna do what I asked you to do or not? I've worked my ass off on the retainer. Except your assistant screwed up, started swinging a knife. And where did Alex and Peter go? I don't know about that. I woke up when they put me in the car. But they said one of them was hurt. Wilson hung up the phone and thought. He realized that he was in trouble again, and if he didn't find a way to influence Bill, they would come for him soon. It had all been so good, hadn't it? And he should have arranged for them to go on that business trip. I should have taken those idiots to a hotel during business hours. No, they wanted to go exotic. They spent a week preparing. And the result was a lot of money lost, 2 companies lost, divorce. The worst part is that his wife stole everything from him, even what he was hiding. He had to make a decision, but he didn't know what it was. Beale sat at his desk. Everything had worked out for him. He hadn't paid a lawyer for nothing after all. James had proven to be remarkably tenacious and consistent. He worked through everything, though he wasn't privy to some of the details. He didn't know where Bill's granddaughters were hidden. And he didn't know anything about the cottage. Now his release was entering the phase of completion. Only for this they had to arrest several officials of no small level. They'd helped Beale falsify a number of documents. Audrey suggested to Olivia, "Why don't we go see Peter ourselves? Have him throw us off the porch?" "Not until he does, I won't. And Alex hasn't even sent you a letter in all this time. He won't even talk to you in court. It's all through his lawyer, and he won't even take the handoff. I just want to talk to him. I'll call a cab and we'll go back and forth." "Hold on, I'll call the neighbor, see what she says." Olivia called her neighbor back. She said, "There were a bunch of people here to see Peter. Then they jumped out quickly, put one of them in a car and drove off. Another one was dragging his buddy with him. Didn't Peter come out? I didn't see him, and there were no lights on in the house." Olivia ended the conversation and said to her friend, "There's no reason to go. What if they were killed there? Alex. Killed? Apparently, he kicked the shit out of them and they ran away. I just don't know what's going on out there." Morning, finding out what they needed to buy. She'd go, buy, bring, and then disappear again. And then, 10 days later, someone came into the yard and rang the doorbell. Vanessa opened it and excitedly rushed to hug the person who entered. It was Bill. He said, "That's it, I've been released. Now there will be a trial and I will be fully rehabilitated." Beale walked to the room where Alex was lying, went over to his bed and said, "Thank you for my granddaughters. Can we go out already? Peter has to go to work. And I have to go to the police to register. The manhunt is over. Wilson's a wanted man. But I know where he is, but it's not my concern anymore. You can get a job at the same company I used to work at. You can live here in this house. I bought it as a backup. I need to recuperate, and you need to go to the hospital too, you're wounded after all. Don't worry, I'll get you a doctor." Bill, burdened with business, left, offering to take his granddaughters to their town, but then, having reasoned, decided that they should stay. He said, "I'd fire you from your jobs there and bring your workbooks. I'll give up the apartment. It was on an open-ended lease. You'll stay here for now." Indeed, the next day a man came, examined the wound and said there was nothing wrong. "The wound is clean, neatly treated. Now time will heal you. Dress it up and in 2 weeks it'll be healed. I'll come by." That's how it worked out. Pither went home, but he stopped by every night to see Alex, and one day he told him, "Listen, Audrey found me here, asking to see you. I'm like some kind of official, I have to ask to see you. I just don't know if I want to see her. I've forgotten all about her. If she calls, tell her I'm out of town. We should talk though. All that time in jail, I didn't get a divorce. Maybe that's why she wants to meet. No, she and my Olivia want to meet with us to get us back. Only unlike you, I'm divorced from Olivia. And I have other plans tonight." "What are they?" "I've been talking to Varya while you've been sick, and I realized we're soulmates. We share the same interests. We share the same cooking habits. I think she's coming to live with me. When will she move in? I'm proposing to her today, although that's a foregone conclusion. You know, if I were you, I'd propose first. That's what I'm waiting for." "For what?" "She's coming to visit us tonight. So we have to set the table. And Jessica's gonna do the dressing. What's there to do? Peel off the band-aid, dab some iodine on it and seal it up. The wound's gone. It's just a scar. The doctor looked at it today and said I can't work with a wound like that." Beale showed up, brought some presents for his granddaughters. He put a whiskey on the table and looked at Alex and said, "I know you don't drink. But that's your business. They found Wilson today, or rather his body. He was dying hard. So I'm celebrating. He's the one who got my granddaughter's parents killed. But he told me everything when he was dying." "Who did he tell?" "I don't know, I only have the videotape." "And you can go back to work tomorrow." "I talked to the doctor. But it's a wish." Beale, Peter here wants to talk to you." "What's the subject?" "I talked to Vanessa, and we've decided she's coming to live with me." "So you're proposing to her?" "Yes, I am." Give the wounded man a drink, too. As for my consent, I'm afraid those days are over, and whatever I say, you'll do it your way. Did you at least bring the bride a ring?" "Yes, I did." "Well, I'm happy for you. Vanessa, what have you decided?" "I'm in. I've already packed my stuff." "Oh, by the way, stuff." Tomorrow they'll bring you what's left in the rental apartment. I hope you'll take it all in." Everyone but Peter had a drink. When asked why he didn't drink, he said, "I'm driving and I have a bride to take home. I've got champagne ready and a table reserved for two. You're not inviting me over? Not today." The next day, in the morning, the car with the things arrived. Alex helped the movers unload it. After that, he went to the office of his company. He went to see the director. "Well, you finally showed up. You're already a legend in the region." "What legends?" "How you built a 5-story house in the shortest possible time." "Well, that's not my merit. Labor was cheap there. The management had a strong interest. If they hadn't utilized the money allocated, it would have been very bad for some people." "That's good. At least you got more experience in construction. And we won 2 contracts in a bidding war. 2 heavy apartment buildings. And they're right next to each other. That's good. You got the design documents, permits and approvals." "Yeah, it's all in place. They study the maintenance plan, write a comment, make a selection of materials. In general, the work is boiling." Alex started work the next day. Jessica also got a job at the same company as an economist. In between, Alex met James, who became a respected man, a businessman. In conversation with him, Alex asked, "How would I divorce my wife? Maybe you can suggest a competent lawyer?" "You probably don't practice law anymore." "That's right. I don't practice law anymore, but I can. I'll talk to him first, and then I'll set up an appointment for you." "You're not divorced yet?" "I haven't had time." "No time in prison?" "I didn't think about it there." "I've noticed you think differently there. Because it's a different world out there." "Yeah, that's what you said. It's a different world." One weekend, Bill arrived at the cottage while Alex and Jessica were still asleep. He wasn't surprised that they were sleeping in the same bed. Settling down in the kitchen, he made himself breakfast. Alex and Jessica woke up. Smelling the aroma of coffee and hearing someone fiddling in the kitchen, came downstairs. He told them that they were sleeping so soundly they couldn't be woken up. "Ah, we went to bed late last night." "I see. So are we going to have 2 weddings?" "I'm not divorced yet. I've just prepared the papers for the court." "Why go to court? We could have done it without going to court." "That's an option I'm considering. James referred me to a lawyer." "I know, he told me. I had no idea you and Jessica would work out. I wondered why she wanted to work at the same firm as you. And by the way, your wife's looking for you." Olivia got a call that Petra and Alexei and 2 women were sitting in the restaurant where the scandal had occurred. Olivia immediately called her friend, and soon she and Audrey entered the room. As they looked around, they noticed the company sitting at the table. Alex also noticed his wife and Olivia, and warned his companions about it. Audrey, maneuvering between the tables, approached them, and without saying hello, looking at Alex, said, "The fighters are remembering bygone days. And the battles they fought together. You're twisting things a bit. According to the investigation, I fought alone. And you couldn't come to me when you were free and talk to me. What was there to talk about? Of course, it was easier to send a lawyer with a divorce proposal. That's the most normal way out of this situation. What about listening to me? You went to the neighborhood audit for 2 days. My attempts to clarify what kind of audit on Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, remained unanswered. You didn't even explain anything in court. But your, now deceased, Director Wilson, told me in detail that you came there for a vacation. And from the file, we know that you rented 2 hotel rooms for a vacation. Alex, I made a mistake, and I won't make it again. Of course you won't, at least not with me. And I would point out how generous I am in divorcing you. I'm leaving you everything, even the car. Can't I be forgiven? You know I forgive you. That doesn't mean we're gonna be together. It was you, not me, who destroyed everything good that we had. And now here you are, the 2 of you, and you made a decision together about whether or not to go on a business trip. And you made that decision. And you could have just said no. Why did you say yes? We were offered a promotion. In order to rise in the ranks, you need knowledge. Unfortunately, I noticed, you had a weak base. But I wasn't interested in your earnings. I thought you'd realize that you need to educate yourself. Fill in the gaps you've made in your studies. But you went the other way. But can we talk? What's there to talk about? I have other interests, another life, and I don't see you in it. And you have only yourself to blame for that. All right, let's meet on Tuesday, outside the ZAXA, and make a statement. What time? 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it's a deal. I'll give you your car, and I don't need it anyway. So sell it. I can't do it without your consent. And I don't want to do it. Audrey and Olivia turned around and left the restaurant without saying goodbye. On the street, Olivia asked, "Why are you doing this?" "No, Olivia, it's not gonna be the other way around." He was getting nervous again and could get out of control. Alex and Audrey's divorce took place a month later. As a result, Beale transferred the cottage to his granddaughter Jessica. Alex moved in with his wife. And 6 months after the wedding it became known that Jessica is expecting a child. Peter and Vanessa's wedding took place even earlier. And they too, to the delight of his grandfather, were preparing to become parents. Bill was pleased with the fact that Alex and Peter stayed away from crime. He'd warned them privately, "There's enough of me out there and what I do is on the edge of the law, but not breaking it. And getting out of that system, I can't get out of it either." Audrey wasn't alone, either. She met an accountant of the firm during an audit and got married to him. Olivia, who realized she couldn't get Peter back, began actively looking for a wealthy husband. And she found one. He was so much older than her that even Audrey asked, "Olivia, isn't he a little old for you?" "Oh, Audrey, he is. He has a cottage. I can't stay with you all the time." That's the kind of story that a psychologist will comment on.
In my practice, this question is very common almost every day. To be completely honest, it is very difficult to forgive adultery. Of course, it can be made up for by many years of good behavior or some very humane act. Over the years you can forget about it. Therefore, when men ask a psychologist, in what cases it is possible to forgive cheating wife, usually mean the following. In what cases, having learned about the infidelity of his wife, you can go for reconciliation and preservation of the family, without separation and separation on different apartments, without scandals and insults, without filing for divorce? In what cases, after learning about your wife's infidelity, should you not inform your children about the conflict in the family and try to resolve all issues peacefully, without publicizing it to your children, parents or friends? In what cases, after reconciliation of the spouses after the discovery of adultery, there is hope that such a thing from the wife will not happen again? I will answer these questions with my own author's approach to this sensitive topic. I came to it after many years of work as a practical family psychologist. I apologize in advance to those viewers that may have a different point of view. I believe that to forgive cheating wife, that is, after the discovery of the fact of cheating to keep living together with the intention of restoring the lost trust in the family, can be in the following two basic situations. Situation 1. If the cheating wife committed the act once and only once, or being in a state of passion, e.g., in a state of severe alcohol intoxication at a party, at a corporate event, on a business trip, etc., or being pressured or threatened by management at work, or having succumbed to pressure or threats from some dangerous acquaintance, such as after a casual acquaintance in a cafe or at a friend's house, offered a ride and induced to intimacy, or as a response to such a reliably known adultery on the part of the husband, in which the husband persistently did not confess and did not repent, thereby putting his wife in the position of a complete fool and causing her sincere indignation. In this case, the principal important thing will be that the cheating wife herself honestly told her husband about her dishonorable act, or after her husband had this information, she immediately confessed to him about the situation and told him everything as it was. In both cases, the wife voluntarily agreed to make changes in her behavior that would prevent the recurrence of such excesses. For example, forever refusing to attend any events involving alcohol without her husband's accompaniment, permanently refusing to travel or spend the night in questionable places, if harassed by management, change jobs, permanently refused to spend leisure time without her husband, improved her family behavior, including in the family bed. Situation 2. If the cheating wife has been seeing her lover for some time, but the husband himself at the same time, for a long period of time also had a left love affair, about which his wife knew, that is, his snout is in the gun, and he has full moral right to condemn his wife. The husband himself for a long period of time for disrespectful reasons avoided having an intimate life with his wife and thus forced her to look for a lover, for her health. The husband systematically behaved unworthily towards the family, wife and children. He was an alcoholic, drug addict, gambler, unemployed slacker, beat and insulted his wife and children, left the family. At the same time, it will be of fundamental importance that the cheating wife, tired of leading a double life, herself sincerely told her husband about her disreputable deed, or after the husband had this information, immediately confessed to him in this situation and told him everything as it is, without bills. In both cases, the wife voluntarily agreed to make changes in her behavior that would prevent the recurrence of such excesses. For example, making her life schedule completely transparent to her husband, giving her husband full access to her cell phone and social media, officially broke up with her lover by talking to him on the phone in front of her husband, ostentatiously threw away all of the lover's gifts, changed jobs if she was working with the lover, permanently refused to spend leisure time without her husband. In these cases, I believe it is possible to quickly reconcile the husband with his cheating spouse. But, only taking into account several other important circumstances, if, prior to the discovery of the fact of adultery, the wife did not cause her husband's censure as a good housewife and a caring mother. If the revealed adultery was the first and only adultery on the part of the wife. If the husband had not previously made clear and categorical remarks to the wife about her too obvious flirting or getting close to the man, especially from among her former admirers, with whom the woman ended up in bed. If the wife immediately or in a fairly short period of time confessed to her husband about her infidelity and immediately stopped all communication with the lover, including communication on social networks, on the phone or at work. Most often, I recommend husbands to file for divorce from a cheating wife when, if, even without taking into account the adultery, the woman never took place in the family as a wife and mother, her family and personal behavior and so caused only complaints. The woman never confessed and repented of the adultery, although the husband has clear evidence of her guilt. When a woman has cheated on her husband before and has been forgiven. When the cheating woman refuses to so change her life schedule and approaches to life as to eliminate technical possibilities for cheating in the future. When the cheating wife never provided her husband with specific information about the identity of her lover and at least the most general circumstances and duration of the affair. When the wife's lover was one of those men who were in the husband's personal social circle and the very circumstances of the relationship were known to a large number of people and therefore offensive to the husband's reputation as a man. If the husband had previously warned the wife about the undesirability of her communication with the man who became her lover, especially among her former admirers, when a woman has had several lovers. When a woman found a lover on a specialized dating site on the internet, that is, she deliberately went to establish a relationship with another man. When a woman refuses to demonstrably break the connection with her lover. When a woman asks for time to sort herself out, to decide on her plans for life, to smoothly wind down left relationships, to get over them, etc. I emphasize, in some cases it is possible to restore family relations and harmonize the marriage, even in the presence of these aggravating circumstances. But, in any case, only after the husband filed a petition for divorce. Since the harsh practice of the family psychologist clearly shows, if the husband, whose wife, after the discovery of her adultery behaves defiantly, forgives his wife without her repentance, he will further lose his authority in her eyes, only worsen the situation in his family and come to divorce. Because, cheating wife, especially systematic, it is always a sign of lack of respect for her husband, no matter how much he would not earn and no matter how high a post he would not occupy. And if the actions of the husband after the discovery of his wife and will not return to him the respect of his wife, if the husband will forgive everything and live by the principle of beaten, not beaten lucky, it will still not help him. Either the wife will keep in touch with the existing lover, or later will have another.
Write a comment what you think about this story. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. See you soon.